हेलो एवरीवन, जय हिंद, जय भारत, जय माता दी। वेलकम बैक टू आवर मर्च एंड एवी डिकोडेड जॉब्स चैनल। और रोज की तरह आज वी आर हियर विथ यू एट 10 AM विद द लेटेस्ट जॉब ओपनिंग्स। टुडेज डेट 22 फरवरी 2025। सो विदाउट वेस्टिंग टाइम स्टार्ट करते हैं रेटिंग साइड के साथ। सो देयर इज एन ओपनिंग फॉर oiler in OSM whom they required for their Carnival cruise ships. So there is an opening in cruise ships here, but they required previous experience on as a oiler on this type of ships. Let's move on to our next job opening. That the NAS Maritime required able seaman AB for their Handymax bulk carrier. They also required experience as a AB on similar type of vessel. The Nimbus Marine Group required AB for their. There is 5 position available over here. They required for their offshore vessel. Then Blue Fortune Ship Management required pump man for their oil tanker ship. Joining will be very soon. So hot job opening there. Apply by today only. For applying, what you have to do? You need to go through our WhatsApp channel, Merchant Navy job updates. Then AZ Maritime Private Limited required order for their feeder container ships required in same rank on similar vessel, and joining will be very soon. Kiva Shipping LLP required Boshan for their Aframax tanker. Experience also required over here. Joining will be very soon. COC mentioned over here, but there is no requirement of COC in terms of ratings. And for more such updates, what you have to do? Join our WhatsApp channel for daily updates. रोज के updates आपको मिलेंगे. Let's move on to our next job opening for Master deck side. So for Master, there is an opening in Scorpio Group. They required for their chemical tanker. Andromeda Ownership Company required Master for their bitumen tanker. COC, if you having Indian COC or UK COC, so share your CV over here. AZ Maritime Private Limited required Master for their feeder container ships required in same rank experience they mentioned. So all of the job opening today required some experience. If you also have, so share your CV by today only and let them know you got to know from Merchant Navy Decoded Jobs. Let's move to our next job opening, that is for chief officer. For chief officer, there is an opening in Anglo-Eastern Ship Management, world's first largest ship manager company. They require chief officer for their bulk carrier ship. Relevant experiences mandatory over here. Columbia or a ship management required chief officer for their DP2 vessel, required on the similar type of vessel for their offshore ships. Now, required chief officer for their Handymax bulk carrier. They required for oil and chemical tanker minimum 4 to 9 months of rank experience on similar type of ships. They required valid white COC. Valid white listed COC means Indian or UK COC. They required type of specified. So what is mentioned over here. Then ABB Ship Management required chief officer for their tugboat. Towing tug hota hai, likha hi nahi. So ABB Ship Management required chief officer for their NCV tugboat vessel. They required. So there is no expense mentioned over here. Selling area will be Indian coastal vessel. So if you would like to sell nearby India, so there is an opening for you over here. Ocean One Ship Management required chief officer for their oil and chemical tanker ships. Oil and chemical tanker expenses mandatory over here. Blue Fortune Ship Management required chief officer for their oil and chemical tanker ships. AZ Maritime required chief officer for their feeder container ships required in same rank on similar type of vessel. Joining will be very soon. So these are the job dates for today's date for chief officer. For more such updates for every rank we have mentioned in this video, so watch this video till end. और अभी तक आपने सब्सक्राइब नहीं करा हमारे चैनल को, सब्सक्राइब us by today. और I'll let you know कि you have to click on these links for applying, right? So you need to go through our WhatsApp channel, Merchant Navy Job Dates. For going through that, you need to go through your WhatsApp, go through Find Channel section. On the first tab itself, you need to search Merchant Navy Job Dates. On the first tab itself, our channel will come. First tab itself, our channel will come. Merchant Navy Job Dates. On the just go through that. Follow us by today. रोज हम लोग आपके लिए SC free, fraud free, agent free job openings खोज रहे हैं. Just follow us, support us, and apply by today only and let them know you got to know from Merchant Navy Decoded Jobs. Wait for the response. Very soon you will get, and very soon you will join the ship also. Let's move to our second officer job opening. For second officers, there is an opening in Anglo-Eastern Ship Management. They required for their bulk carrier. Relevant experiences mandatory over here. Columbia or Ship Management required second officer for their DP2 vessel. So there is an opening in offshore vessels. Then Columbia or Ship Management required second officer for their DP2 vessel. Nimbus Marine Group required second officer for their ASTS non-DP vessel. AZ Maritime required second officer for their main fleet feeder container vessel. Admiral Marine Service Private Limited required second officer for their bulk carrier. So these are the job openings for second officer today. Let's move ahead with our next job opening for third officer. For third officers, there is an opening in Anglo-Eastern Ship Management. They required for their bulk carrier. Anglo-Eastern again required third officer for their VLCC product tanker, oil and chemical tanker. So there is an opening in dry ships also. There is an opening in tanker ships also. Then AZ Maritime Private Limited required third officer for their oil and chemical tanker. Must have tanker experience in the same rank. Duration, contract duration will be 6 plus minus. MSI Shipping required third officer for their oil and chemical tanker. MW Maritime required third officer for their bulk carrier. Relevant experiences mandatory over here. MW Maritime again required for their bulk carrier as well as for their chemical tanker. AZ Maritime Private Limited required third officer for their feeder container ships. AZ Maritime required second officer, chief officer, master ratings. So there is lots of opening in AZ Maritime. Then Columbia Order Ship Management required third officer for their oil and chemical tanker. Minimum 6 months of rank expenses mandatory over here. Additional requirement mentioned over here, must have US C1 division. must have US E1D visa in your hand. So if you have, so apply it by today only. और अगर आपको शॉर्ट्स वीडियोस देखने हैं तो फॉलो अस ऑन इंस्टा _jobs. Let's move over to our engine side. For engine side, we start with chief engineer. So there is an opening in Bernard Suter Ship Management for chief engineers. For they required for their LNG steamships. Minimum 15 month of rank expenses mandatory over here. Synergy Maritime Recruitment Service Private Limited required chief engineer for their oil and chemical tanker. Minimum 24 month plus rank expenses mandatory over here. Joining that will be April 2025. Naz Maritime required chief engineer for their Handymax bulk carrier. 4 to 9 month of rank expenses mandatory over here. Blue Fortune Ship Management required chief engineer for their bulk carrier. Relevant rank expenses mandatory over here. Singapore, Australian and New Zealand COC if you have. Joining date will be very soon. Nimbus Marine Group required chief engineer for their OSV non-DP vessel for their offshore. Then Kiva Shipping LLP required chief engineer for their car carrier. So if you would like to join Roro ships, so there is an opening for you over here. Kiva Shipping required chief engineer for their oil and product tanker. They will provide $12,000 to $13,000 as per your rank experience. White COC only accepted here. Joining date will be very soon. So apply over here also. Let's move over to our next job opening for second engineers. For second engineer, there is an opening in Bernard Suter Ship Management. They required second engineer for their oil tanker. They required for oil and chemical tanker. VLSC yard delivery. So there is lots of opening over here for second engineer in BSM. Nimbus Marine Group required second engineer for their DP2 offshore vessel. Then Columbia Oris Ship Management required second year for their DP2 vessel. Minimum 24 month of rank expenses mandatory over here. Synergy Maritime Recruitment Service Private Limited required second year for their oil and chemical tanker experience. They required minimum 24 month of rank experience. This required for second officer, now for second engineer. And joining date will be April 2025. Must have US E1D visa they required over here. Kiva Shipping required second engineer for their car carrier. They required for chief engineer. They required for second engineer also. Naz Maritime required second engineer for their Handymax bulk carrier. Minimum 4 to 9 month of rank expenses mandatory over here. Then Ocean One Ship Management required second engineer for their oil and chemical tanker. Oil and chemical tanker expenses mandatory over here. MW Maritime required second engineer for their bulk carrier. Andromeda Shipping ownership. Andromeda ownership company required second engineer for their bitumen tanker. Indian and UK or Singapore COCs accepted over here. AZ Maritime required second engineer for their feeder container vessel. Experience is mandatory over here on the same rank on similar type of vessel. Let's move ahead with our third engineer job opening. For third engineers, there is an opening in Columbia Oris Ship Management for their DP2 vessel. Synergy Maritime Recruitment Service Private Limited required oil and chemical tanker for their they required for their oil and chemical tanker. Minimum 20 month of rank expenses mandatory over here. MW Maritime required third engineer for their Roro or container ships. Kiva Shipping required third engineer for their car carrier. Must have experience on AMI engines. They required over here only white COC is accepted. Then Kiva Shipping required third engineer for their Aframax tanker. Experience is mandatory over here. Let's move it to the next job opening for fourth engineer. So there is an opening in Bernard Suter Ship Management. They required fourth engineer, but they required experience. Then Synergy Maritime required fourth engineer for their oil and chemical tanker. Minimum 20 plus month of rank expenses mandatory over here. MSI Shipping required fourth engineer for their oil and chemical tanker. Must have US E1D visa. Also they required. Blue Fortune Ship Management required fourth engineer for their oil tanker. MW Maritime required for their chemical tanker. Relevant expenses mandatory over here. Then Andromeda Shipping required fourth engineer for their bitumen tanker. Indian, UK or Singapore COCs accepted here. Then Kiva Shipping LLP required fourth engineer for their car carrier. Must have experience on ME engine. Admiral Marine Service required fourth engineer for their bulk carrier. GRT will be 40,000. So large ship over here. AZ Maritime Private Limited required fourth engineer for their feeder container ships. Required in the same rank. So if you have experience, so there is an opening for you over here. Kiva Shipping LLP required fourth engineer for their Aframax tanker. Expenses mandatory over here. Joining date will be very soon. So these are the job openings for fourth engineer today. That's all for today. We have covered for all rank. So if you like these videos, like the hit button, or we try to find for the freshers also. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Jai Mata Di. Again, I am repeating, there is an opening in Synergy Maritime Service Private Limited for engine cadet and deck cadet. We'll meet you in the next video with next such updates. और कहाँ पे क्लिक करना है तो डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में लिंक दिया हुआ है. जय हिंद, जय भारत, जय माता दी. स्टे सेफ, स्टे सेफ.